Thinking about homeschooling your child? Maybe you're wondering if it's the right move, or if it's just going to be a major challenge. In this video, we break down the real pros and cons. No sugarcoating, I promise. My name is Alfi, and honestly, like many of you, I've found myself staring at this huge, complex, and deeply personal decision. It's a path that promises incredible rewards, but also presents some very real, very daunting obstacles. It's so easy to get lost in the sea of opinions, from enthusiastic advocates to staunch critics, each presenting a version of reality that feels both true and incomplete. So, how do we navigate this? Well, we navigate it together by looking at the evidence, the anecdotes, and the lived experiences of families who have walked this path. We're going to dive into the beautiful flexibility and the potential for burnout. We'll explore the deep family connections and those persistent questions about socialization. This isn't about finding a single right answer, because honestly, one just doesn't exist. It's about arming you with a more complete picture, a more nuanced understanding, so you can make the best decision for your unique, wonderful, and probably slightly chaotic family. And because making a decision is only the first step, I'm also going to share some of the absolute best resources I've found to help families get started on their homeschooling journey, should you decide it's the right direction for you. We'll cover everything from curriculum choices to finding local co-ops. So let's get into it, because the world of education is vast and fascinating. And right now, your kitchen table might just be its most exciting frontier. Let's explore the real pros and cons of homeschooling. So, first on our list of pros is perhaps the most compelling one: customized learning. In a traditional classroom, a teacher, no matter how brilliant or dedicated, has to teach to the middle. They've got a curriculum to get through and 20, maybe 30 different brains to get it into, all of which learn at different speeds and have different interests. It's an incredibly difficult balancing act. But with homeschooling, you are the teacher, and your student body is, well, one, or maybe two or three, but you get the idea. This allows you to tailor every single lesson to your child's specific needs. If your kid is a budding mathematician who devours algebra for breakfast but struggles with grammar, you can adjust accordingly. You can spend Monday morning deep diving into quadratic equations and then dedicate extra time in the afternoon to diagramming sentences, using their favorite fantasy novel as a source text. You can build an entire history unit around their obsession with ancient Egypt, or design a science experiment based on why the cat always lands on its feet. This isn't just about accommodating weaknesses, it's about amplifying strengths and, most importantly, nurturing a genuine love of learning by connecting it directly to their passions. Next up, let's talk about flexibility, which is a game changer for so many families. The traditional school schedule is rigid. The bell rings at 8 o'clock in the morning, it rings again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and your life has to contort itself around those 2 points in time. This can be a source of immense stress, from frantic morning rushes to logistical nightmares for parents with non-traditional work hours. Homeschooling dismantles that entire structure. Learning doesn't have to happen between specific hours in a specific building. It can happen whenever and wherever it works best for your family. Does your child do their best thinking in the late morning after a slow start? Great! School can start at 10 o'clock. Do you want to take a family trip in October when crowds are smaller and prices are lower? You can. Your classroom can be the local library, a national park, your grandmother's house, or even a different country for a few weeks. This flexibility reduces stress, but it also redefines what learning looks like. A trip to the grocery store becomes a lesson in budgeting and nutrition. A nature hike becomes a biology class. The world itself becomes your textbook, available 24/7. This brings us to a benefit that many homeschooling parents describe as the most rewarding, closer family bonding. When you remove the 8-hour school day, the commute, and the mountain of homework, you are left with a significant amount of reclaimed time. This isn't just empty time, it's an opportunity for connection. You're not just parenting from the sidelines, getting a secondhand report of your child's day. You are there for the aha moments, the frustrating struggles, the silly jokes, and the profound questions that pop up during a lesson. This shared experience of learning and discovery creates a unique and powerful bond. You become your child's primary mentor, guide, and academic partner. You witness their intellectual and personal growth firsthand, which allows for a much deeper level of parental involvement. You're not just helping with homework, you're co-creating their entire educational journey. This daily intensive interaction can foster a level of trust, communication, and mutual respect that can be more challenging to cultivate when family time is squeezed into busy evenings and weekends. Another significant pro is the ability to create a safe learning environment. For many parents, the social landscape of modern schools is a source of considerable anxiety. Issues like bullying, peer pressure, and exposure to violence are very real concerns. Homeschooling offers a sanctuary from these negative influences. You are in control of the environment, ensuring that it is physically and emotionally safe for your child. This isn't about sheltering them from the world indefinitely, but about giving them a secure base from which to grow. Furthermore, you have a much greater say in their social interactions. You can curate their social circle, encouraging friendships that are positive and supportive while minimizing contact with negative influences. You can guide conversations about difficult topics on your own terms and timeline, rather than having them introduced randomly and perhaps inappropriately in the schoolyard. This controlled environment can be particularly beneficial for children who are highly sensitive, who have been victims of bullying, or who simply thrive in a calmer, more focused setting where they can be themselves without fear of judgment. Let's talk about efficiency. This might sound counterintuitive given the time commitment we'll discuss later, but the actual act of teaching can be incredibly efficient in a one-on-one setting. Think about a typical school day. A significant portion of time is spent on classroom management, taking attendance, quieting the class, transitioning between subjects, and dealing with disruptions. An immense amount of time is dedicated to getting 30 different students on the same page. None of that applies when your class size is 1. A concept that might take a full 45-minute period to teach in a classroom setting might be grasped in 15 minutes with direct, focused instruction. There's no waiting for other students to catch up, and no moving on before your child has truly mastered a topic. This efficiency means that the school day can be much shorter, often just a few focused hours. This frees up a huge amount of time in your child's day for other pursuits. Deep dives into personal interests, artistic endeavors, sports, volunteer work, or simply unstructured play, which is itself a critical component of learning and development. And our final pro is the absolute freedom you have over the curriculum. The public school system, for all its merits, generally offers a one-size-fits-all educational model. But in the world of homeschooling, you are the dean of admissions, the curriculum board, and the head of the philosophy department, all rolled into one. You can choose an educational approach that aligns perfectly with your family's values and your child's learning style. You are not bound by standardized tests or state-mandated lesson plans in the same way. Do you believe in a classical education model, focusing on the great books in Latin? You can do that. Are you drawn to the child-led, interest-based learning of the unschooling philosophy? That's an option. Perhaps the hands-on, nature-focused approach of a Waldorf or Charlotte Mason education resonates with you. You can mix and match, pulling the best elements from various philosophies to create a truly bespoke education. This freedom allows you to incorporate religious or ethical studies, focus on practical life skills, or prioritize arts and creativity in a way that traditional schools often cannot. It's your school, your rules. All right, we've talked about the bright side, but now we have to turn to the cons. And the first one is a giant, the heavy time commitment. This cannot be overstated. Homeschooling is not a passive activity you can fit in around the edges of your day. For one parent, it often becomes a full-time job, and a demanding one at that. You're not just the teacher, you're the principal, the guidance counselor, the curriculum planner, the record keeper, the field trip coordinator, and the cafeteria lady. The hours you see your child learning are just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface are countless hours spent researching curricula, planning lessons, gathering materials, grading work, and documenting progress to comply with local regulations. It requires a massive and sustained investment of your time and energy. If you're a two-parent household, this often means a significant financial sacrifice, as one parent may need to leave the workforce. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about whether you have the time, the stamina, and the organizational skills to take this on. And now for the con everyone brings up: socialization. It's the classic, almost cliché criticism of homeschooling. And while it's often based on a caricature of a lonely homeschooled kid who never leaves the house, it points to a genuine challenge. In a traditional school, socialization is built in. Children are constantly interacting with a large, diverse group of peers. They learn to navigate complex social dynamics, deal with conflict, and work with people they may not personally like. This happens automatically. When you homeschool, socialization doesn't happen automatically. It has to be intentional. You, the parent, are responsible for creating those opportunities. This means actively seeking out homeschool co-ops, signing up for sports teams, enrolling in art or music classes, arranging park days, and joining community groups. It is entirely possible for a homeschooled child to be even more socialized than their traditionally schooled peers, but it requires consistent effort, planning, and often a lot of driving. If you don't make it a priority, your child can miss out on crucial peer interaction. Next on our list of challenges is the risk of academic gaps. When you're designing a curriculum from scratch, it's incredibly empowering, but it's also a huge responsibility. Without the structure of a formal school system and a team of professional educators, it's possible for certain subjects or skills to be unintentionally overlooked. You might be a brilliant writer and instill a love of literature in your child, but if you've always been intimidated by physics, you might subconsciously de-emphasize it in your teaching. These gaps can become a problem later on, especially if your child decides to transition back to traditional school or apply to college. This is why ongoing assessment and a solid plan are so important. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert in everything, nobody is. But it does mean you need to be aware of your own weaknesses and find resources to fill those gaps. This could mean using a comprehensive boxed curriculum, hiring tutors for specific subjects, enrolling in online classes, or utilizing co-op classes to ensure your child receives a well-rounded education without any major holes. Another practical challenge is limited access to resources. Public and private schools are institutions with significant infrastructure. They have fully equipped science labs with Bunsen burners and microscopes, extensive libraries, gymnasiums, sports fields, art studios with pottery wheels and kilns, and technology labs. Replicating these kinds of resources at home is, for most families, simply not feasible or affordable. While you can do amazing science experiments in your kitchen, it's not the same as a dedicated chemistry lab. Accessing these resources requires extra effort and often extra money. You might need to find community sports leagues instead of relying on a school team. You may have to seek out private music lessons, join a community theater, or find a local makerspace to provide opportunities that would be readily available at a well-funded school. The same goes for special services. While school districts are legally required to provide services for homeschooled students with special needs, navigating that system can be a bureaucratic and frustrating process. This next con is intertwined with many of the others: parental burnout. The role of a homeschooling parent is all-encompassing. You are on 24/7. You're trying to balance the roles of parent and teacher, which can sometimes be in conflict. The person who needs to enforce bedtime is also the person who needs to explain fractions. The person who needs to maintain household order is also the person who needs to inspire a love of history. This constant juggling act, combined with the lack of personal time, is a recipe for exhaustion. There are no sick days, no substitute teachers, and no summer break in the same way. The responsibility is relentless. Many homeschooling parents report feeling isolated, overwhelmed, and touched out. It's crucial to acknowledge this risk from the outset and to build a support system. This means connecting with other homeschooling parents, scheduling regular breaks for yourself, and being willing to ask for help from your partner, family, or friends. Ignoring the potential for burnout is one of the quickest ways to ensure that your homeschooling journey becomes unsustainable. Finally, our last con: dealing with external pressures, from legal hurdles to social criticism. Depending on where you live, the legal requirements for homeschooling can range from simple notification to extensive portfolio reviews and mandatory standardized testing. It is absolutely essential that you thoroughly research and understand your state or country's laws to ensure you are in full compliance. Navigating this legal landscape can be intimidating and time-consuming in itself. Beyond the legal aspects, you will almost certainly face questions, and sometimes outright criticism, from friends, family, and even strangers. People will question your qualifications, worry about your child's social life, and express doubts about your decision. This can be emotionally draining. You have to be prepared to confidently and patiently explain your choices, or sometimes to simply ignore the unsolicited advice. Developing a thick skin and a strong sense of conviction in your decision is a necessary survival skill for any homeschooling parent. So, after exploring this complex landscape of pros and cons, what's the verdict? The truth is, there isn't one. The decision to homeschool is not about a simple tally of good versus bad. It's a deeply personal calculation that depends entirely on your child's personality, your family's circumstances, your own strengths and weaknesses, and your educational philosophy. What is a deal breaker for one family is a minor inconvenience for another. What is a dream scenario for one is a nightmare for another. The goal isn't to find the perfect path, no educational path is perfect, but to find the path that is most perfect for you. It requires a profound level of self-awareness and honesty. Can you truly commit the time? Do you have the patience and the passion? Do you have a plan to address the challenges of socialization and potential academic gaps? Answering these questions honestly is the most important step you can take. Remember that this decision isn't necessarily permanent. You can try it for a year and reevaluate. The beautiful thing is that you have a choice, and being this thoughtful and intentional about your child's education is, in itself, a remarkable act of love. I hope this breakdown has given you clarity and confidence as you consider your options. It's a huge decision, and you're not alone in weighing it. If you're seriously considering homeschooling, drop your questions below. I'll reply. And check the description for a full list of top homeschooling resources to help you get started. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.